Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Going Native, written by Uncle Sealing. Going Native, Chapter 66. Questing for Great Truths peeked out her window. With her cybernetic eye, she was able to zoom in and watch the humans at work. They were truly industrious, and after 2 days of solid labor there was already a huge cylinder over 100 meters across attached to the planetarium's spacecraft. She pulled up the company website in a floating window in her field of view, then from there navigated to the latest version of the VCA plans. It looked like the cylinder would form the outer shell of the telescope assembly. Essentially they were building a room to build the actual telescope in. A quick count showed that all of the humans were out in the cold, which was perfect. It meant she could run her errand without worrying about more staring. A stretch renewed the pain in questing for great truths' lower back, and she let out a quiet grunt. After throwing on some jeans and a flannel shirt Stace had given her, she made her way down to the medical office. "Hey, Quest." Stace was sitting on a low bench, fussing with his shoes. The prosthetic left leg was covered with a pair of blue jeans that matched hers perfectly. His smile seemed strangely apprehensive and nervous. "What's up?" She took a moment to formulate a reply, remembered that it was a human idiom, and chose something different. "I was hoping to get some pain meds. My back has been killing me lately." "Oh." Askell stopped halfway into pulling on his leather jacket and sat it down. He pressed his thumb to a lock and one of the side cabinets opened. "What's the cause?" "It's my damn chair. It's Shilvati-sized and I just can't get comfortable when I'm working." "You're in luck, then." Stace gave her a bright smile. "We're going out to do some shopping. I can take a look for a new chair for you." Askell held out his hand and questing for great truths held her own below it, accepting a pair of small white tablets. "That should help with the pain for now. When Stace and I get back we can see about getting some massage therapy going for you." "You mean?" Questing for great truths felt like she was overheating. Her face flushed. "You can?" "Yes, I can, as long as you're not weird about it. I studied massage as part of my physical therapy program." Askell shrugged with a small blush. "Well, I guess we'll have to see how I feel." She swallowed the pills and turned to leave. "Thank you." "Wait, please." Stace's voice was quiet, clearly nervous. His eyes were downcast as she looked at him. "Can I ask you for a favor?" "Sure, Stace." "What can I do for you? Would you mind going for a hike with me in the next couple days?" "Wha? Huh? I know we're friends, but I don't know you that well yet, and considering how beat up you are, I mean, not to say that you aren't capable, but I wouldn't want." "Oh, for fuck's sake. I meant going for a walk with me, not whatever Samuel does out there on his hikes with the scout team. I want to talk to you about some things and it will be easier for me if I'm in my natural element." Questing for great truths managed to stop her stammering and met Stace's eyes. He was grinning at her now. "Believe me, I have way too much on my plate to be looking for another bedroom buddy. In that case, I would love to." Aaron Smith had never been in prison before, but he always assumed it would be worse than this. His room was huge by Earth standards and he had it all to himself, a concession for being a male. It wasn't always like this. He had been in a good old-fashioned US privatized jail, but then he pulled his little Omnipod stunt and now he was in the military lockup on the Denver base. With no warning, the door swung open and a pair of Shilvati stepped in, grabbing Aaron's shoulders and dragging him out. They didn't say anything, just forced him along the path until they could deposit him in what was clearly some sort of interrogation room. Unlike his earlier questionings, This room was staffed by a Shilvati male in a lab coat accompanied by an assortment of medical gizmos. Before Aaron could get his bearings, a female Shilvati slipped into the room behind him and locked the door. She was fairly young, wearing a long dark coat. Her white hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and around her neck was hanging an interior agent badge on a lanyard. When they locked eyes, he found himself stumbling backwards. She was furious, a barely restrained rage that told him he was only moments from intense violence. One hand came up and she pointed at a chair, complete with wrist and ankle straps. "Sit." Aaron just stood there, glaring at her. Since he had been captured, he knew it was just going to be a matter of time before they had to get rough with him. He was doomed, and dragging things out, dissembling and slowing everything down, was the only proper way he could continue to rebel in his situation. The woman seemed to understand the situation as well. She nodded, then reached into her coat. In one fluid motion, she drew a baton and slammed it into the side of his knee. He could feel the joint pop at the impact, and at the same time the baton released a discharge of electricity. His leg clenched up and he collapsed to the ground. It took a moment for Aaron to come to his senses. He was lying prone on the floor, his muscles jerking spasmodically in small aftershocks. He looked up at the woman, who used the baton to point at the chair again. "Sit." When he didn't try to stand up, the woman leaned over and gave him a quick poke with the baton. She must have turned up the juice because his whole body clenched in a twisted ball of pain and he felt a growing wetness between his legs. The woman pointed at the chair again. Aaron dragged himself to the chair, trying to keep the weight off his broken knee. It felt like an eternity to climb his way up and into the seat, but at least he didn't get hit again. The male Shilvati strapped his ankles and thighs in place, followed by his wrists and forearms. Aaron tried to get a look at the guy, but a single look taught him that was a bad idea. The male's face was like a wooden mask, eyes full of rage in an otherwise calm face. Some sort of soft cap was pulled over Aaron's head, then he watched in growing horror as the male deftly cleaned the skin on the back of his right hand and slipped in and for. One of the machines beeped and a stinging pain started in his hand and slowly began to flow upwards. It was like the inside of his arm was on fire. "What?" He tried to speak but the pain was intense. His nerves were still jangly from the stun baton and this just compounded it. "Just a muscle relaxant. We don't want you struggling too hard." The woman looked up over his shoulder, back at the male. "How are his levels looking?" "He's in pain and he's scared, but I don't have a reference to know how bad the pain is. Humans tend to have a high pain tolerance." Aaron couldn't see the male, but he could see the woman nod and hold out the stun baton, handle first. It disappeared over his shoulder. The male stepped to the side of the chair and Aaron turned to watch just in time to see him bring the device down with both hands, crushing the back of the human's left hand against the arm of the chair. Bones cracked and the stun rod discharged again, filling Aaron's mind with a red halo of pain. "That looks like a good upper limit." The male sounded almost happy to Aaron's ears. "I wouldn't mind giving him a few more just to verify. We can ask later, if you want. I have a friend who can give you tips on really hurting this son of a bastard." "That human who killed the other ones?" "Nah, he's too nice for this sort of thing. Retired Death's Head Commando." "Nice." Eventually, sitting in silence while these two monsters watched him, the pain in his hand and his knee turned into a dull throb. He caught his breath a little at a time and, finally, the curiosity overcame the fear and the pain. "Who are you?" The woman leaned over, nice and close. "That assassination attempt at the bar. The one you supplied the weapons for." She gently stroked his left hand before her thumb jammed into the now crushed metacarpals. He howled in pain as she looked up at the monitor. "Hey look, I can make the line move." She pushed again and again until Aaron was crying and the male was laughing. Sorry. Got distracted. The woman released his hand. I was the target, and this young man with me is now a widower because of your tame hitmen. You are going to tell us everything you know. If you lie, we will know, and we will hurt you. They weren't going to let us do it this way, the male chimed in pleasantly. You were cooperating so well, until your little practical joke with your omnipod put 2 interior agents in the hospital. Now we get to play with you. And believe me, you'd rather have us than the next option. Aaron coughed a little, his voice weak and hoarse. What's that? Chemical and surgical conditioning? The woman slipped the stun baton back into her coat. It's not exactly pleasant. Burn out some parts of your brain, drug therapies combined with pain-forward/pleasure conditioning. By the end of it, telling the truth would be the only thing in the whole world that could bring you any sort of pleasure. Lying would cause you physical agony. Your personality would be pretty much gone. The woman shrugged. There are long-term care facilities that take care of cases after that, but the patients are pretty much just very talkative empty shells. I'll talk. The words slipped quietly from Aaron's mouth, his face twisted in abject horror. Just don't do that. Karen Klein smiled as the little blue sports car pulled into the parking lot of Klein and Smith Furnishings and Decor. She didn't know much about cars, but it was fancy and that meant she could probably get some sales in. It was also small enough that it meant she didn't have to deal with any of those eggplants that came in from the Painter Observatory looking to decorate a hotel room. They paid well, but having to stock extra large furniture for them was a pain and had screwed up the look of the showroom floor. The passenger clambered out and she was confused for a moment to see the black leather of motorcycle gear. Who wore leathers while riding in a car? As the morning light flashed on the small man's face, she saw that it was grey. Not a sickly grey like her dad before the cancer took him, but a colour like that of slowly forming storm clouds. He wasn't human. The creature stepped over to the driver's side of the small car and reached in, helping the driver clamber out. He was clearly human, with light skin and shaggy brown hair with a matching beard. While he stood unsteadily, the alien reached into the space behind the front seat and pulled out a cane, one of the ones with a cuff that wrapped around the wrist to provide extra support. The man nodded in thanks and began making his way into the store, his dark green coat flapping in the wind. With her best plastic customer service smile nailed firmly in place, Karen stepped towards the door to welcome her only customers. Good morning. Both men seemed to start at the sound and turn towards her. The human took a moment to cough into his hand, clearing his throat before he spoke. When he turned towards her, she froze. One of his eyes was the black and gold of a Shilvati, the other hazel. His smile was awkward and non-threatening, which went a long way towards putting her back at ease. Good morning. It's a bit cold out there. It is. At least spring is here. The small talk seemed to unlock her brain and customer service mode kicked in once more. Are you looking for something in particular or were you just planning to browse? We are looking for a couple things, but first I have to ask, do you deliver? Nothing is really going to fit in my car. The man's left arm came up and rubbed his neck in an almost sheepish gesture. The grey alien was starting to look around, examining the nearby furniture. He either couldn't understand English or wasn't interested in the conversation. We do. I'm assuming it's going to the painter facility. You got it. The man reached into his coat and for a moment she noticed the grip of a large handgun tucked under his left arm. Considering handguns weren't legal anymore, it was a bit alarming, but she knew plenty of people who carried even though it wasn't technically allowed. In fact, she figured if you were a human over the age of about 25 in Durango you were probably packing at least something small. His hand came out holding a piece of folded paper. A skill here at the name. The grey alien looked up at the human, his huge green eyes locking on for a moment with a smile. Is looking to help his girlfriend outfit her apartment. Standard human stuff, I'm thinking contemporary or mid-century modern. They are going to need the works. She doesn't have anything right now except an ugly little desk and a bed. So at the very least we need a couch, end tables, a coffee table, a dining room set, and a dresser. The plastic smile on Karen's face became far more genuine. The works meant they were probably going to be dropping at least 10 grand. The vibe she was getting off the man told her that he knew this, too. What's your budget? Let's put it this way, hardwoods only, no particle board and minimal veneer. We want pieces that can get passed down to grandkids. Show us what you have and I'll let you know if we start going over budget. I'm sure we can accommodate you. Is there anything else you are looking for, or should I start showing the young gentleman some pieces? There is one other thing. It's for a woman approximately my size. The man consulted the piece of paper. I need the single most comfortable piece of furniture you have. Personally, I'm thinking a recliner of some kind, but I will defer to your judgment. Karen's eyes shifted towards the motorized, adjustable reclining monstrosities that stood sentinel along one wall. The fancier ones went up to almost 6,000 credits all on their own. Today was shaping up to be a really good day. The wind whipped on the roof of the Painter Hotel, but Ella Helium couldn't feel it. She was fully kitted out in body armor, using the image amplification built into her helmet to watch the workers 3 stories below. After her time with Stace and meeting the 2 Sams, Ella really had forgotten something that had slammed back into her mind the moment that little blue bus pulled onto the property. Ella didn't like humans. She didn't trust them, especially now when they had a way into her home. Ella had borrowed a bell cart from the hotel and outfitted the roof with a few things she might need. A cooler with food and drinks, a folding chair, her Omnipod, and of course a high-powered marksman's laser rifle. A little bleep sounded in her ears and she noticed a call coming in. Ella? Jelsai here. Give me a moment, I'm trying to get Commander REM on the call too. Once the 3 were connected, Jelsai wasted no time. We have a bit of a problem. News from that Smith guy. Ella knew Jelsai was going to have words with him today. Yeah. We roughed him up a little and made up some Turok shit about cutting out sections of his brain. He got a lot more cooperative. There's at least 1 spy in the human group. That's good to know, but not exactly surprising. REM let out a small sigh. My girls have all been informed to keep an eye out and watch out for guys who seem too eager. He's not just any spy. He's one of these numbered shitsticks who seem to be organizing things. 7. Jelsai growled. I couldn't get a good description out of him, but at least we have some info. Anything we can work with? While REM asked the question, Ella watched. The security staff seemed to be moving in closer, the perimeter tightening around the humans. 7 seemed to know Sammy. Brought his kids to the museum a bunch. That should help narrow it down. Lieutenant Ella, I request permission to collect all the humans for questioning. REM's voice was firm. I think it would be prudent, considering. Ella thought about it. It would make sense to stop the project and round them up, but that would undo all the hard work that went into this. It would be one more step towards turning the facility into an actual military base. Right now, none of the humans know that we are aware of the spy. Let's coordinate with Sammy, see who on the list fits the description. Then we can focus on those targets and keep the project moving. Understood? End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode and do all the other YouTube stuff. visit and support the author, and I'll see you next time. If you didn't enjoy, comment on what I can do better. And as usual, have a wonderful day.